Good evening and welcome to the latest installment of the Oro Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. We got a full desk tonight, guys. First of all, you guys have a good week?
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, good deal. Well, of course, all the way on the other end, we've got our regular Russell Parker, our other regular Jeremy McKenzie. And joining us tonight to my right is our good buddy Bobby Deaver, or as I call him, Bobby D. So we've got a full slate. We're going to jump right into it. Of course, guys, this past weekend we had Duke, Carolina, the second go-round. UNC, of course, won the first round in Chapel Hill, but as some of us predicted, actually all of us predicted, when the Tar Heels seem to go to Cameron, a lot of times they lose, and unfortunately that was the case. The score was 74-64, so Duke was actually down by 10 points at halftime. Obviously ended up coming all the way back in the second half, was a completely different team, and ended up defeating the Heels by 10. Now, just a couple of quick stats. Marvin Bagley III had 21 points and 15 rebounds, so a double-double, and that's after he started the first half with only 3 points. So you can see he was the difference maker. Of course, Grayson Allen had 15 points as well. For the Tar Heels, Cameron Johnson led with 16 points. Kenny Williams had 13. Luke May had 13 points and 7 rebounds. Theo Pinson had 12 points and 8 rebounds, and Joel Berry only 6 points. So again, that also contributed to the Carolina loss. The Tar Heels were out-rebounded 34-42 by Duke. And, of course, with this game, because Carolina lost, they got thrown back to the 6th seed in the ACC tournament. Duke ended up as the 2 seed, and we'll get into the tournament here in just a minute. But we all three picked Duke, so our prediction records have gone up another game. Still undefeated, Jeremy. I don't know what you're doing, but
Richmond County got it wrong, though. Only 73% of them picked Tar Heels to win.
They did. You're absolutely right, and I have to admit, on the poll, I picked Carolina because I had to go with my heart on that one. But as far as picking it with my head here on the show, I had to take Duke, unfortunately. But I want to get your guys' opinion on the game because it's such a storied rival, and it has a big impact here in the Sandhills area.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, Tar Heels is a huge school around here. Duke is too, and Tobacco Road has always been big with college basketball. So, but I think UNC is going to have to dig down deep if they want to continue to perform well as the ACC tournament comes on and the March Madness tournament.
Yeah,
I agree with Russell. We're looking at two big-time collegiate teams in the ACC, pretty much predominant in the country. They know how to win. They're very experienced. And at the same time, from this loss with Carolina took, even though they was dominated in the first half, but for some reason, like they just had a slump in the second half. But that kind of sent a message not only to Duke, but also to Carolina to say, hey, we got to do better if we want to continue this tournament, to do better in this tournament and get to the March Madness in order for us to compete for a championship. So I think both of them need to look at, hey, we got to do better at the rebounding, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. What do you think, Bob?
Well, Duke's going to be fun. I mean, as the more games they've been playing, the better they kind of look as a team. Carolina, when you go into a rival and they score what was like 25 to 30 points in the first half, and then you almost allow them 50 in the second.
Yeah.
You're almost doubling the amount you allowed them. You're not going to win a championship that way. So I mean, whether it's defense, mindset, I don't know, atmosphere, what happened on the bench, they're going to have to change something there.
It was definitely a tale of two halves, and I pulled up a quote here that Roy said after the game. He said, "I think some aliens crawled up in my guys' bodies in the second half because that wasn't the North Carolina team that I've seen all year," and he was absolutely right about that. And like you said, they put up 49 to 29 points in the second half, so just a completely different Duke team, and one that's going to be reckoned with not only in the ACC tournament, but of course in March Madness. Now, moving on to the ACC tournament, I do want to put a disclaimer out there for everybody watching. Usually we tape the show on Thursdays so we can do it live, but unfortunately due to some scheduling conflicts, if you're watching this on Thursday, we actually taped this last night on Wednesday. So unfortunately we're not going to be up to date on some of the scores that are in the ACC tournament, but of course our executive producer Russell is going to do the honor of putting them on the bottom line. So if you need any scores, you can find the updates there. Now, as far as the ACC tournament, like I said, UNC got jumped all the way back to a 6th seed because of tiebreakers and losing to Miami and a few other, NC State, Clemson, a few other teams. Duke, of course, is a 2 seed. Earlier on Wednesday, BC, Boston College, actually beat NC State 91-87. So they will eventually move on. Notre Dame and Virginia Tech play at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. And, of course, UNC is facing the Orange of Syracuse at 9 o'clock on Wednesday. So, again, we'll have those updated scores for you on the bottom line. Moving into Thursday, Louisville is going to move on to play number 1 seed Virginia. Like I said, Boston College will move on to play Clemson at 2 p.m. on Thursday. The winner of the Notre Dame Virginia Tech game is going to move on to play Duke at 7 p.m. And the winner of UNC Syracuse will play Miami at 9 p.m. And we'll see who moves on further from there. So I want to get your guys' opinion. Right now, who do you think is going to win the ACC tournament?
I'll say Virginia.
You'll say Virginia, all right, Bobby?
I mean, with the role they're on, and you come off a big win off of UNC, and we'll have to be looking at Duke.
All right.
I'm going to take the top one on the list, Louisville.
All right.
They look really good today, too.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go with Duke as well, just because they seem to be riding high. They, sometimes you wonder when you've got all these freshmen on the team how they're going to play. A team like Kentucky's had some issues with that. Duke had some issues with it early on in the year, but like you said, they're starting to come on. Maybe these guys are starting to gel. And with a senior leader like Grayson Allen, I can absolutely see Duke ending up taking over the ACC tournament.
And when you start looking at championship teams, whether it be ACC or NCAA, you want to look at teams that are gelling late.
Yeah.
It's not the ones that are running out of steam now, and they seem to be doing it. But I can see where either two of these teams also pull it off.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's with any sport. It seems like the closer you get to the playoffs, and of course this is college basketball's playoffs. The team that is, got all the momentum seems to be the ones more times than not that end up moving on. So I absolutely agree with that. Now, Jeremy, you were talking bracketology earlier about how you were trying to set up your bracket early. I've been looking at it as well, and we've mentioned it here before, that ESPN's Joe Lunardi comes out pretty much every single day and updates his bracketology on who he thinks is going to get in, who's on the bubble, who's the first four out, and so on. Now, right now, the top four seeds, I think, are the exact same as last week's. Virginia, number one in the South, number one overall. Kansas is number one in the West. Villanova, number one in the East. And Xavier, number one in the Midwest. So, we'll have to wait and see whether these guys are able to move on. But as far as the ACC, he's still got 9 teams getting in from our conference. I say our conference, from the Atlantic Coast Conference, which is obviously a lot. Virginia Tech, Clemson, NC State, Louisville, Duke, Florida State, UNC, and Miami to go along with Virginia. So, going to make you take another prediction here. Overall in the tournament, I know I just mentioned a few of these teams here, but Bobby, who you got winning the whole thing?
There ain't no way I'm going to make this prediction. I've not watched enough teams outside the ACC to actually make a prediction. Well, I will say this, though, overall, about the ACC, you got to do better this year. I mean, you get so many teams in every year based upon your conference, and then you get knocked out in the first couple of rounds. It's starting to look like, all right, is it just prestige, or is this conference still nationally going? So I'd like to see how many ACC teams actually can go forward. As far as overall, though, I ain't got that yet. Give me a week.
You're gonna wait until they get further into it.
Well, let me see the real seeds first.
All right, yeah.
As far as with the tournament coming up, with the 9 teams going in, and if I look at, I always do a dark horse, and some teams, like, we already know pretty much who's going to go out. Now, the ones who pretty much will go out will be more like going to be State, Syracuse, and Miami. Your dark horse probably will leave is Clemson. But I see, like, Virginia, Chapel Hill, Duke will pretty much go forward.
All right.
Well, I know, like how you mentioned, hey, corrected yourself from our conference to the Atlantic Coast,
Yeah.
because I'm SEC,
Yeah.
and I'm going with the SEC team to win it all the way. Unfortunately, it's not an SEC team I would like to go with, but I'm picking Tennessee because they've had a great season this year. I don't like that at all. I don't like them to Auburn and Tennessee. They're co-champions of the SEC, but I'm going to have to go with Tennessee. They had a great season so far, and they're coming off of a four-win game streak right now. So
that's a bit of a dark horse there.
Yeah,
because they had a good season, but I think only Tennessee fans and you will be picking them to win it all.
Maybe I'm just giving them a little too much credit to them because I know we're taking Butch Jones away from them over there.
So you're just paying it forward, huh? I'm going to go outside of both conferences, and a team that I think could win this all is the number 1 seed out of the Midwest, Xavier. It's a team that doesn't necessarily get talked about, but they've basically been in the top 5 in college basketball all year. They've got a 4-year senior, which you don't see that much anymore. His name's Trevon Blewett. Great player. We'll probably see him in the NBA next year. But he's one of those guys, remember Kimball Walker for Connecticut? A guy that can literally move in and take over the whole tournament and can make his team, the Musketeers, be victorious by the end of March.
Speaking of Connecticut, on women's basketball team, on the women's basketball side right now, UConn is 30-0.
Yeah. I don't even know why they have a women's March Madness because UConn, I mean, I saw that UConn and Mississippi State are the only two undefeated teams in women's basketball. But let's face it, I mean, it's UConn versus everybody, right? Isn't that how it usually works with Oriental up there?
If it ain't Baylor or UConn, more likely it's going to be or Tennessee. It's going to be somebody else.
Yeah.
I didn't even see UNC ranked at all.
They're probably
Don't
not.
say there.
They're probably not. And they've had some good years in women's basketball, but I think right now they're kind of on a downswing. Hopefully they'll be able to pick it back up. Now, getting back to the ACC, of course, every league announces their rookies of the year and their players of the year. As far as the Atlantic Coast Conference, Marvin Bagley III wrapped up both awards. So as a freshman, he won Rookie of the Year and also Player of the Year. This guy's 6'11". He's 234 pounds. I've seen some big boards as far as the NBA draft. This guy's going at least in the top 5, if not the top 10. He led the ACC in scoring this year with 20.7 points and rebounding with 11.2 rebounds, joining Duke's Jahlil Okafor in 2015 as the only players in league history to win both awards in the same season. Also on the all-conference team was Boston College's Jerome Robinson, Luke May, and Joel Berry from Carolina, and Virginia's Kyle Guy. Talking about Bagley, and just real quick, how do you think this guy will do in the tournaments and then further on in his career in the NBA? Got an opinion?
I mean, as far as in the actual tournament, he's going to do outstanding. He's going to be one that sticks out and all the rest. But he's still, unfortunately, about average size in the NBA. So you're going to have to see him actually step his game up and continue. We think you mentioned Kemba Walker. Is he carrying the Hornets like he did during the tournament? Bagley's definitely going to make some noise in the tournament. As far as it goes into the pros, it's always a wait and see, depending on where he goes and when he goes.
Yeah. Jeremy?
Same way with Marvin Bagley, a guy who's pretty much can give you 20-10 a night, and I know he's going to pretty much dominate the tournament and going to continue to do what he does at best, crashing boards and making points. As far as going to the NBA, yes, he'll be a top 10 or a top 5 pick. As far as continuing his career, as I always say, it depends on what team he goes to and what system he can adapt to, and and you can build that team around him and give him some role players. But not have, I believe he'll have a good NBA career.
Yeah. What do you think, Russell?
I mean, I agree with that. I think he's going to step up a lot coming into the tournament and be that getting that leadership role with his team, and maybe even bring that over into the NBA.
Yeah. And speaking of Bagley, we were talking before we started taping about the Wooden Award, which is, of course, college basketball's version of the Heisman Trophy, given out to the best player in the entire nation. Now, I have Marvin Bagley III winning it overall, and I want to get your guys' opinion as well. But I also want to add that Luke May made it onto the list as the final 15, which I'm very impressed because he ended up with 17.7 points a game, 10.1 rebounds a game. And this is a guy that didn't play a whole lot for the championship team last year. So kudos to Luke May. He's 6'8", he's 240. Maybe he has a career in the NBA. Again, we'd have to wait and see on that. Probably not. But stranger things have happened. I mean, Hansborough had a great career, and he had a long career.
Yeah, long
career.
That was a good way to put it.
Yeah,
and he's about the same size. But Bobby, you got any idea who you think will end up winning the Wooden?
No, not per se, man. All right, so if Bagley's already won these awards and he steps up, because it's based off just a regular season, right?
It's based off the regular season, and then they kind of take the first portions of each league's tournament. So.
No, I'm just not sure on this one.
Yeah.
Look, you can either fake it till you make it, and I can fake it and say, "Oh yes, Bagley," but I'm not throwing chips down on this one yet, man. I'm not sure.
That's all right, Jeremy. What you think?
I truly believe it's going to be like I'm taking in wrestling. It's going to be a triple threat between the point guard from Xavier, Jerome Robinson, and Bagley. Depends on who does great in that tournament and takes their team to the Elite 8, Sweet 16, to the Final Four, even to the championship. But at this moment juncture, I can't give a name right now. It all depends on who goes through.
All right.
Well, since nobody else is going to take a name, I'm going to throw out Bagley.
All right. I mean, I think it's fair to say because,
Cars down.
There's 9 teams from the ACC slated to get in. He's the best out of that tournament as far as the voters are concerned. And, I mean, when you look at the numbers, you can make a case, and not many people would argue with you. Now, voting is going to take place from March 12th through the 19th. So, the big tournament won't have as much of a bearing on it, but we'll find out on Friday, April 6th, who's going to win that tournament. So, that's going to end it this week for our college basketball talk. And I'm sure we're going to get right back into it next week as we approach March Madness and everything that comes around that. And it truly is madness. So, but when we come back, we're going to talk some NFL, the Combine, Saquon Barkley, of course, one of those guys that worked out this past week. And we're also going to get into some more NASCAR, a little bit of wrestling. We're going to try to keep that compact, but you know how we are here on the RO Sports Show. Once we get started on that, it never ends. But we'll be right back with more from the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics.
At Richmond Community College, we can prepare you for a high-skill, high-paying career in a variety of fields. From business to education, engineering, utilities, healthcare, criminal justice, information technology, and human services. At Richmond Community College, we can save you thousands of dollars on tuition through our university transfer programs that provide a seamless transition to universities and colleges throughout North Carolina. At Richmond Community College, we are always developing new courses and programs in response to the communities we serve. We offer day, evening, and online courses, and you can now complete 5 curriculum programs entirely online. At Richmond Community College, we believe in helping you prepare for a better life. Richmond Community College. Local college, big impact.
Exit Realty Platinum in Rockingham has listed one of the most beautiful homes in Richmond County. Located in Rockingham on Ledbetter Lake, the home features 4 bedrooms with bamboo floors and a kitchen featuring stainless steel appliances and granite countertops, and a master bedroom that overlooks Ledbetter Lake, along with a spacious tile shower and the attached master bathroom. The open living space leads to the back deck with a perfect view of Ledbetter Lake, and the property features its own boat dock. Want to see this beautiful home? Call Nicole Hayden with Exit Realty Platinum, your source for homes in Richmond and Moore counties.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Now, as I mentioned before the break, guys, we're going to get into some NFL talk. Of course, the Combine was this past week. And just a couple of quick names I want to throw out, some guys that I noticed that were having a great Combine. Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma, Josh Rosen, the quarterback from UCLA, and Josh Allen, the quarterback from Wyoming. Another guy that really stood out to me was Bradley Chubb, right here from NC State. This guy, I've seen a lot of big boards. Some people have him going as high as number 3 to the Colts. But from what I've looked at, the stats, his numbers at the Combine, he's absolutely worth that. He ran a 4.65 40. This guy had a 36-inch vertical and a 10-foot, 1-inch broad jump. So I've seen some scouts that says this guy might be better than Myles Garrett, who, of course, went number 1 last year to the Browns. So some observations from the Combine?
Not from Nashville Combine. I didn't get to watch much of it this year. But what I will say, when you said about the Browns and I was number 1, and you named 3 quarterbacks, I just do not think a quarterback's going to go number 1 at all. But as far as the Combine, I can't add much. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I did watch a little bit of the Combine this past week with watch the running back position with Barkley from Penn State. They, looking at his stats, over 1,200 yards, 18 touchdowns with over 600 yards receiving with 3 touchdowns. Had a pretty good 4.4 run, speed-wise in the dash. And but we're looking at the history of the Cleveland Browns. They got so many needs from offense, defense to special teams. And I don't think far as with Barkley will go number 1, but I just don't see the Cleveland Browns go for a running back. They probably need to start fresh and probably could take a QB or left tackle, because depending on what Joe Thomas is going to do in the next day or two, if he's going to retire, he's going to return. Or you look at your defense, you got so many needs there. So Barkley will pretty much have a good, solid NFL career.
Trade it down. Trade it down. They got number 4 pick too.
Yes.
Right. So they got it from Houston, I believe.
Yeah, and they also, and pretty much with Cleveland, the owners is pretty much open up to trade down the number 1 pick.
Yeah. Russell, what do you think?
Well, I think we might, based on what happened in the Combine, we might actually see a running back go number 1 overall. I mean, Nick Chubb was done pretty good in his Combine. He did strongest over 270 pounds. He benched, I believe it was 29 reps or 227, if I'm reading that right. But pretty good stats there.
The only thing I worry about Chubb is he has a injury history. Mm-hmm. I think he missed at least 1 whole season due to a pretty bad leg injury. One name that I had to bring up, and I'm sorry for any Oklahoma Sooner fans, but Orlando Brown, who is one of their tackles. This guy had 14 reps of 225, which for me would be a lot, but as far as a big offensive lineman, that is not very good. He ran a 5.85 40. Pretty sure I could outdo that one. And he had a 19.5 inch vertical that was actually 4 inches worse than anyone else in the entire combine. And his broad jump was only 6 feet 10 inches, which was a full foot less than the next shortest. So not a good combine for him. And this was a guy that a lot of people thought might be the top, at least tackle, taken on the board. But you mentioned Saquon Barkley. This is a guy that he's 5'11", he's 233, one of those pounding backs that's going to put a lick on you. Like you mentioned, he ran a 4.4 40. He had a 40-inch vertical, 29 reps, 225 pounds. I mean, just a beast of a running back and a guy that I think will have a great career in the NFL. As far as college, he rushed for almost 4,000 yards and 43 rushing touchdowns to go along with about 1,200 receiving yards and 8 other TDs catching. So this is a guy that not only can run it, but he can also come out of the backfield and catch some passes for you. Now,
Remember a few years ago, I didn't mean to cut you off, but remember a few years ago and no one would draft a running back in the first round?
Yeah.
And then last year you see 2, and now we're talking about number 1 at running back.
Yeah.
I think they've realized if you hit on a running back, you get that 5th-year option. So
Right.
you might get somebody coming out 21, 25, and at their end of their first rookie contract before they get paid, be 26, 27 years old. 30 is about the shelf date for it, so it's actually looking smarter because of the current CBA to hit on a running back in the first round.
and one of those running backs you're talking about was Ezekiel Elliott. I think he
Yes.
went 5th to the Cowboys. But you guys got to remember, when he went to the Cowboys, he was behind the number 1 offensive line when he went there.
Yes.
You think if Barkley goes number 1 to the Browns, that's not that good of an
Well,
offensive
you look at
line.
look at the last person that Cleveland had drafted was Trent Richardson from Alabama.
Yeah, he was supposed to be that guy.
And he supposed to came in that guy, but due to a poor offensive line and Joe Thomas and Alex Mack were probably at the time were your 2 best offensive line. He did, and then the offensive system he came into because due to so many coordinators and head coaches keep switching in and out. You see how that paired out.
Eddie Lacy, another Alabama running back who went to Green Bay Packers.
And he did well.
Yeah.
And
Boy,
Although he did have a weight issue, though, that ended
Yeah.
up kind
Yeah.
of derailing his
knocked him
career.
right out the door. I mean, he wasn't there long.
nah.
Now, in you guys' opinion, we mentioned Barkley. I mentioned a few of these other guys' names. Bobby, I'm going to start with you. Do you got any idea who you think is the best player coming out of the draft? You want to take a stab at it?
Best player coming out of the draft. If I was number 1 and I was going to take a pick, I mean, you probably would take Barkley. I mean, as an overall player, whether is that going to be the number 1 pick that you would take for your franchise? No, but as a player, you can't argue with the size and the speed.
And then would you take a quarterback with the 4th pick? Assuming that they keep both picks.
All right, see, now, what I meant by on the number 1, that would have been like best player in the draft.
Right.
If you're taking a quarterback number 4, I believe you're starting to reach for position then. So, I mean, if you remember the Browns, it was like a year or 2 ago, they got rid of most of their starters.
Yeah.
And like he was just saying, they're starting from scratch. You got 2 first-round picks. You can turn that into a lot of draft picks. Is that going to be a lot of trash, or are you giving away on superstars? That's something that if anything, the NFL constantly teaches me is quarterbacks are sort of overpaid, and you don't need a great one to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You do need a great team. We just
Yeah.
had a backup win the Super Bowl last
Yeah,
year.
Nick
So
Foles, yes.
If you're going to go throw out everything out at number 4 when you could turn that into a couple of second and third round picks and a later number 1 round pick, that's the route I'll go personally.
Which is something that the Patriots, of course, they're never up there at the top of the draft, but Bill Belichick is always moving and shaking, trying to get as many picks as possible. So who do you think is best player coming out of the draft?
I go with Barkley from Penn State, but if I was, you're looking at let's say for the GM for the Browns, who do have the 2 draft picks. I look at the situation right now. We just went through an undefeated, didn't win any games last season. So we tell ourselves, having a meeting with my executives, coaches, staff, everything else, we need to start somewhere. We really need to start somewhere. I don't care if you got to go offense, defense, or special teams. We in the situation, we need to win. We got a good, strong fan base. They love us. Heck, they even
For
had
some reason.
Yeah, for every reason. I never known for a team that never won a game had a parade. That was real funny to me. But all jokes aside, if I go with the number 1 off pick, I'll be like this. I'm kind of going to do this. I always wanted to do this, like I'm in the NFL draft. With the first overall pick of the 2018 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Saquon Barkley, running back, Penn State.
All right. What about you, Russell?
I agree. I think you got to take a running back, whether it be Barkley or Chubb or anyone else. I really think the Browns could definitely use a running back.
Here's what I see happening. Of course, I'm not an expert, and I'll probably be completely wrong. I could see the Browns take, if they don't trade him, I could see them taking Bradley Chubb, pairing him up on defense with Myles Garrett on the other end. Defenses win championships, like you just said. There have been plenty of quarterbacks that weren't that great that have won Super Bowls. So I could absolutely see that happening. And then if Barkley's still there at 4, maybe you take him then. Maybe you trade that and move back and get a quarterback, because I don't think DeShone Kizer is going to be the man in Cleveland out of Notre Dame. So everybody's, I guess, kind of on the consensus, though, that Saquon Barkley is probably the best prospect to come out for this year. Unless you guys want to add anything else, we're going to move on.
Well, no, I mean, they said the same thing about Fournette last year, and he come out, but look what he did with the Jags. Now, he went in the middle of the first round, but just to sit here and say there's going to be a running back taking the first pick overall after how it's been in the past, it's kind of just blowing my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the best pick the Browns have had that I can think of in a long time has been the first round was Joe Thomas, the tackle.
And that was like a decade ago.
Yeah, but see, if you're looking at this from another standpoint, look at what the Jaguars did.
Yeah.
And look what the the Jaguars been in the doghouse for years.
But they built from the inside out.
No, but inside out. But at the same time, look what they had to do in order to rebuild to get back where they are from spending money on free agency and had to build around through the draft. I can see Cleveland kind of pretty much do the same way because you're in a competitive division, AFC North, because you got Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. But in order to do a lot of those, you might have to do something in free agency and build yourself around the draft. But at the same point in time, you got a lot of young pieces there that could be potentially NFL superstars someday.
Yeah, but where did Jacksonville start building? Where did they get those free agents on defense?
Yeah.
Now, Fournette obviously is a great running back, but the defense is the key to Jacksonville because Blake Bortles, as we mentioned last week, is a mediocre quarterback, and they've signed him again an extension for 3 years because they know how good their defense is.
And so even with Leonard Fournette, I had him go, when I did my mock draft last year, I had him going to Carolina.
A lot of people did.
And look at what he turned out to be in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
He went to a Pro Bowl and had almost close to a 1,000-yard season.
I think while we talk about players like running backs and quarterbacks, it's just how many times they get the ball. And you look at defensive players, you get one of them, you're expecting maybe if you get a sack a game, that's 16 sacks a year. That's pretty good. So you're looking about 1.5 to get over that to get a carry. When you're doing a running back and you're wanting him to touch the ball 20 times and then even more catching the ball, so there could be more payoff. The only thing is there's so many good young running backs out there that you can find one in the 3rd round.
Absolutely.
And still get it 4th round even.
Even with Denver. Denver had a...
But can you find another Von Miller who's up there at the top? Can you find that big defensive guy that is going to change a game and make 3 or 4 different plays that go ahead and change? I don't know. So I actually, the more you talk, I'm thinking, defense might be smarter for them at number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Yeah. A linebacker from Georgia could go number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, they kind of get overrated in the first round. I think you should build up those guys who are going to be in the trenches. If you want a good running back, you got to have great blockers. You got to have a great defense to win the games, to keep from the other team scoring. So all of those matter. Everything matters. It's a team effort. It's not built around one person.
And do any of y'all think there's a quarterback in this draft that's just one of those I have to take, he'll change my franchise quarterbacks?
I don't, but I haven't really seen one in a few years.
No.
And I also haven't had, how many times am I going to get the 2nd or 3rd pick?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where I might look with the quarterbacks. You got New York there, and you got some teams looking that might want some quarterbacks pretty early. And where they get another chance. Browns aren't in it, though.
There's only 32 teams in the NFL. I mean, it's got to be 32 great quarterbacks already out there. So what about the 4 guys you need on the line and on the other side of the ball? There's a lot more there that you need to look at, I think, when it comes to the guys in the trenches.
Yeah, and just real quick, a beef that I have with the Combine is, it's great when these guys run these really fast 40-yard dashes and they jump and they do all this, but does that really play into an NFL season, when it comes to making tackles? I mean, are these intangibles that actually translate onto the field, or is it just kind of eye candy?
It's ability that allows you, you just know they have the tools.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're going to be a good football player. Because like you said, I mean, if they're basically showing they could be a good in track and field.
Basically,
football is what happens between the hash marks, or between the sidelines. So we'll see.
And especially leadership roles and being a guy to step up in those tough situations where the pressure is on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a combine you can do that all day, and then when you get into the actual game and it's 5 seconds left on the clock and you got to make this last minute score
Yeah.
here. I mean,
Because one thing you
All that
can't tell.
stats ain't gonna matter after that.
One thing you can't tell at the combine is how a person who was just had a school workload on them and then was learning football on the side to go full-time football, are they going to be overwhelmed
Yes.
with the scheme? Are they going to be able to adjust quickly? Are they going to pick up the
Yeah.
schemes
Yes.
and know what their job's going to do? That's something the combine will never be able to tell, but it is nice to know that, hey, how strong they are, how fast they are.
Yeah.
So it's not completely useless, but it's completely overrated.
And I did notice, I watched a video that had the top 10 40 run times, and every one of them ran track in college and high school. So it shows you where a lot of these guys are getting started. Now, we're talking about quarterbacks in the draft. There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks this year. There's also a lot of quarterbacks that are hanging out there. So we'll see what kind of carousel is going to end up with that. But the guy that I think is going to start that domino fall is Kirk Cousins. Of course, we know now that the Redskins signed, or actually traded for Alex Smith from the Kansas
Yes.
City Chiefs. Now, for some reason, the Redskins decided to not franchise Kirk. Could have done that even after they traded for Smith and maybe traded Cousins and got something for him, but instead they said, go ahead, do your thing, go make some money. Now, Adam Schefter from ESPN put out a report that it's down to 4 teams, and those 4 teams are ones that we've mentioned several times already: the Denver Broncos, the Arizona Cardinals, the New York Jets, and the Minnesota Vikings. Now, there was also a report earlier this week that the Vikings had offered him a 3-year, $91 million guaranteed offer. Come to find out, that wasn't true, but I expect him to get maybe not that much money, but at least close to that. So starting with you, Bobby, first of all, where do you think he'll end up? You think it'll be one of these teams?
Excuse me.
And how much money do you think this guy's going to end up raking in?
All right, well, he's bringing in the money. And the reason is because what we were just talking about, like these teams that are kind of mainly in the middle to the bottom, when they're like or especially in the middle, where he might be the last piece to bring us over to the edge of the Super Bowl. They might have been at the bottom of the playoff race last year or just barely made the playoffs. They're looking for a player like Cousins. And when I think about a team like the Vikings, who just gave up 3 quarterbacks, they're the ones, sort of looking at him. But how much money he's going to make is always going to be over. He's going to be one of the biggest paid quarterbacks ever. And if you look at all the rest that's been paid over the past 3 years, I don't even know how many playoff wins do they have. When you look at like Garoppolo and for the 49ers, or you look at these really high, they're throwing money at quarterbacks. He's getting paid, and that's what would make me worry a little bit about if I was looking at Cousins. Why would Washington be that held off on not paying him? Is
Well,
it because they can't pay the rest of the team, or they find other value elsewhere? Or?
I think it's a combination of that. I think it's they
Bad
know that
blood.
he's going to cost them a lot of money. They know that they have needs in other positions. Now, we talked about this the very first show. I was not happy about it. I think with Cousins, it's a guy that never ends up in his prime going on the free agency table. But I think it's a combination of things. I don't think he's damaged goods. I mean, I got some stats here. In 2016, this guy threw for almost 5,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. And then just last year, after he lost Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson, 2 1,000-yard receivers, he still threw for just over 4,000 yards with 27 touchdowns.
And
So-
did you see how much the 49ers paid?
Jimmy
Yeah,
Garoppolo, yes.
That's kind of my point, though.
No, that is your point. Like, Kirk Cousins deserved that money.
Yes.
Like,
It's a quarterback-starved league. So, I
Yes.
mean, what do you think, Jeremy?
I think because you're looking at Kirk Cousins, I still think the Redskins are still kind of. It's kind of like, I'm gonna say this: they on the stupid side for not resigning. You didn't resign your franchise quarterback, so really you traded somebody much older and much more experienced than Cousins was. So if you're looking at Kirk Cousins, you're looking at what he has done since he's been in the league. And I think the best situation that he probably can go into, like I can come into a franchise and win right now to try to pretty much solidify my NFL career to probably make multiple Pro Bowls, because he already been to a Pro Bowl once in his career. But I think, to me, when it's all said and done, I would love to see him in a Broncos uniform.
Yeah.
Broncos.
Because that's the
Vikings.
only, because you look at the Broncos, even with the Vikings, look what they did with Case Keenum. Case Keenum was a journeyman. And at the same time, he took a German quarterback, almost took him to the Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins, look at Denver Broncos. When Peyton Manning had retired after they beat us 2 years ago, we're looking at the whole Denver Broncos. Defense was solid. You had Emmanuel Sanders on one side. You had Tamarius Thomas on another. You already had C.J. Anderson at the backfield. Look the only thing I said to myself, John Elway, if you want to get another ring as an executive, go get Kirk Cousins.
Speaking of, I just mentioned Von Miller earlier. I think he was pitching for him as well because he realizes that, hey, he's not getting any younger. And it was 2015 when they won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah, and then now it's 2018. They're like, hey, we need a quarterback, and I think that's why he's knocking on the door on John Elway so much. Like, hey, get us one in here. Besides, the Peyton Manning, the quality that Peyton Manning was the last time we won a Super Bowl. We need much better than that.
Yeah.
Russell, where do you think Cousins will end up?
Well, first of all, I still think that the Redskins should not have given away Cousins like that. I think it should have kept him. But I think he would fit well at either New York with the Jets or in Denver. I think he could do well at either one of those.
Yeah, I originally picked Denver when we first talked about this, so I'm going to stick with Denver. But, any of these four teams, maybe not so much with the Jets, although the Jets out of these four have the most money to spend. But if the Vikings get Cousins, I think you can pencil them in for a playoff spot. If the Broncos get in, I think you can do the same. I even think if the Cardinals get him, you could say that because Larry Fitzgerald, the guy's ageless. I don't know what he's doing, but he's still having 1,000-yard seasons. They still have a decent defense. David Johnson is supposed to come back 100%.
Yes.
So we'll have to wait and see on that.
Well, I will ask you this, man. If it came down in Washington just about the money, then is Cousins more willing to give up money for someone like Denver and the Vikings versus someone like the Cardinals and the Jets? So would it be crazy? Like, we're all sitting there going like, well, maybe you wouldn't go to the Jets because it's not the immediate winner, but maybe he just takes the money and run.
He could. I mean, and I wouldn't fault him. I mean, these guys' NFL career only lasts, an average one only lasts 3 or 4 years. When you get that money, you go get it.
Yeah.
But, I don't think – I think what happened is there was some kind of rift between the Redskins and Cousins. They offered him a pretty big deal. He turned it down. I don't think they really countered on it. They kept tagging him. And the more they tagged him, I think if we'd have tagged him this year, it was going to cost us like $35 million, which as of right now, he's going to get close to that anyway.
Yes.
So.
That's not what the tag's for anyway. It's supposed to be so, we can tag you while we get a long deal done, not to string you someone along like that.
Right. And we're going to get into that with Le'Veon Bell here in just a minute. But the precursor to that, the NFL salary cap, of course, during the offseason, has gone up again. For this year, it's gone up to $177.2 million, up $10 million from the $167 just last year. Now, this is the 5th straight season that the league has bumped the cap up by at least $10 million. So the cap's really growing up, and it's grown by more than 53% in the last decade since it was only $116 million back in 2008. Is this something that you guys see continuing? I mean, where's the limit when it comes to the salary cap?
I think it's ridiculous that it just keeps going up like that. I mean, these players get paid so much money.
Yeah.
I'm on the opposite end of that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, here's why. The NFL is a billion-dollar industry, and these teams are making money. Even if it's not through necessarily people showing up, the rates that they're selling their TV rights for are outrageous. And as far as any other sport, when it comes to baseball, when there's less people, or it comes to basketball, where there's less players, NFL players, by average, are not paid as much as what the value of that place is.
Yes.
Now, they might value the quarterbacks more, and they might get way more money, but I'm looking at $10 million per team, and that's really probably only going to be, to get a better 2 or 3 players or sign some players during the off season. So it doesn't seem like a huge growth.
Right.
It's not surprising for that long for them to continue to make money and for them to raise it, because if anybody's going to get the money, why not it be the guys putting their body on the line?
Yeah.
So, and I agree with my man here. Same way, one of the things I could put an example is in Carolina, by me being a Panther fan, and we're looking at guys who pretty much you look at your core players and guys who contribute day in day out to make sure we win games, go to the playoffs, and win the Lombardi Trophy. And one of the things I could say about our GM, returning GM Marty Herney, which I gave him credit for. He went over the salary cap many days, but he always resigned his core players. He came in, was on an interim basis, resigned Gano, Trey Turner, and gave Jonathan Stewart a little bit of money before he got released. But I think it's ridiculous the way you pretty much bump the salary cap up, because same way, NFL's already making money anyway, so.
And they're not guaranteed contracts.
And that's the same thing. They're not guaranteed. I can go out right now, go to OTAs or the training camp and go out, run the route, and break my leg. They'll cut me.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not in there to guarantee, that could be something interesting. You need to cut and not get that money. So.
Yeah. And I'm at a lost cause.
And And I mean, it's not just the NFL that's dealing with this. Baseball, basketball,
Yeah.
their salary caps are up there. And I know, I'm not sure how it is with the NBA, but in the MLB, they have a cap, and they'll go over it without the big team, the big market teams. They'll go over it without even.
That's called a
season.
soft cap. They both have soft
Yeah.
caps. NFL has a hard cap, and I
Right.
would like them to keep that. So if they're going to raise it a little bit, I can understand. But they keep the hard cap, and then you don't have to worry about teams within bigger markets going so far over it and just paying the penalty to get by.
But there's been plenty of NFL players in the past that have complained about how much NBA, especially and baseball players are getting paid. Whereas unless, like we said, unless you're a quarterback or one of the top receivers, running backs, actually not even the running backs that much.
Or defensive guys.
Yeah, unless you're like one of the top guys at your position, you're not going to get all of the money that's in the contract. And like we've said already, one injury and they'll cut you like that. So they're not bashful when it comes to that. Now, speaking of the salary cap, transition tags and all of that stuff that comes with the NFL offseason, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers have decided to tag Le'Veon Bell, their running back, for the second year in a row. He can only negotiate with Pittsburgh right now, and he's actually, if he takes the tag, he's going to make $14.5 million for the 2018 season. Of course, the Steelers have until July 16th
The 15th.
to sign a contract. Is the 15th?
Yes, sir.
15th. To sign a multi-year contract. Now, you've said this before. He threatened to retire
Yes.
if they did this. He doesn't have to sign it. He doesn't have to do anything.
Because he held out last season, and he didn't sign his franchise tag about to start the regular season.
Yeah, and he's already come out and said there is a chance, if he has to, he's going to sit out training camp. And he said he'll sit out until week 10 when it's mandatory for him to come back. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, is he being a brat about this? Is he entitled to do this? And how is this going to affect the Steelers?
Offensively, I think it's going to affect them on the team because you got no backup guy to come in and to replace him, because Le'Veon Bell is so much a integral part of your offense, not only in the backfield but catching passes as well. Even on the business aspect of the whole thing is this man is probably top 5 in his position in running backs. Give him his money.
Oh, he's at least top 5.
Yeah, he rushed every time he ran every season. He's been drafted. He's been run over 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
There's two things I would like to point out, and I didn't mean to cut you off on that. Is he is averaging 129 yards per scrimmage, and which is the most of any NFL player, like from the scrimmage line. Of course, not counting quarterbacks. And here's another stat: the Falcons have the top paid running back. He is paid $8.25 million.
Devontae Freeman.
Yeah.
He just made 13.5 last year. They just tagged him for 14.5. So there's got to be a middle ground there between because he's saying I'm not Freeman. I do more. He's looking at himself like I'm a number 2 receiver. I play multiple positions. I can do multiple things. And he's looking at that as he ages, because he's, like I said, he's 26 years old. They can start around 30. I'll get 4 good years where you better be paying me top dollar. He looks at Antonio Brown. He says, you paid him. You paid Big Ben. I'm part of the Killer Bees. I want my money too.
Yes.
Now, does that make him greedy? No. Now, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you might be like, whoa. But as a athlete who's knowing his value in his limited time, I think he's going for his value. And I believe I'd read somewhere last year where his mother was actually wanting him to sign the contract that they were giving him, knowing that, well, he turns around, doesn't sign until September, and still has a season like he did last year. And he's going, all right, Mom. She's like, I got you now. Make your money, baby. So yeah, he might. I think they're, at least what sounds like this year compared to last year. Last year it was like, I'm going to retire, I'm not signing. Now he's saying, I think we're getting closer, and he's going to get, Cousins and him are going to get their money. Whether it's going to hurt the Steelers in the long run, and that's why we talked about earlier off air that Antonio Brown is taking not a pay cut but switched his salary from going against the salary cap to being straight bonuses.
Yes.
You make a move like that because you're looking at Bill going, I want you on this team.
Long term.
See what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Can you give like a couple million up to get this signed and we can be a team and stay together and be a contender? Because one thing about being a Steelers fan is they've had the Patriots in their way, and Tom Brady is getting older and he will not always be there. These guys might be able to eke it out a few more years past him.
Yeah. Russell, what do you think?
I'll say that the Steelers should go ahead and find somebody else. If he's going to be a brat about a few $1 million being lost or whatever, I think find something else. There got to be something in the draft that they can pick up maybe, and that would be cheaper or that would be within their budget. Otherwise, I think Steelers could do without him if he's going to be making this much of a fuss about a few $1 million.
Well, you talked about Brady getting old. Big Ben's no spring chicken either.
No, he about 35, 36.
And that's something the Steelers are going to have to look at. Maybe not maybe not this draft, but at least the one in 2019. But I don't think Bell is going to end up playing for the Steelers come 2019 season. I think what's going to happen is they're going to play a game of chicken. I don't know who's going to win. He's either going to take the tag or he's going to sit out until he absolutely has to play. And I think that if that happens, it's going to be kind of a Kirk Cousins scenario, just a little more bigger, where they just say, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore. We're going to move on and try to draft somebody else. Do you guys think that Bell will be playing for them in the future?
No.
All right, I mean, I think right now, as far as a fan, I think they're working towards it. If not, they'd have put a transition tag on him. And a transition tag is where you tag the player, and if someone else matches or gives them an offer, you can match it. They did not get that option because they obviously didn't want to have a chance to lose him for nothing.
Right.
So I think they're looking towards something. But you make a great point of, we were just talking about how there's young running backs that you can find later rounds, and you have other pieces to fill. Why put that much money on him unless they're looking at him and paying him as a number 3 receiver as well as a quarterback? As well as a running back. That would be the only way to justify paying him that much money.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, we all know Le'Veon Bell is, I don't know if he's the number 1 running back, but in my opinion, he's at least in the top 2 or 3.
He's one of the best to watch. Man, he's fun
Yes,
He is.
yes, he
He's a great
is.
running back. We've all said it. He's going to get paid, whether it's with the Steelers or whether it's with somebody else. But again, we'll have to wait and see how that shakes out over the summer.
Would you sit out or would you retire?
I mean, I would play. Because as a running back especially, that's a short career in the NFL. And if I'm one of the best guys, I'm going to try to get my money and get as much of it guaranteed as I can before I have to retire, probably by the time I'm 30.
Well, I mean, that's what I was getting at is if he's 26 and he's 27 next year and he takes the tag, and they're looking at the 30 deadline, he's probably looking for 4 years guaranteed high money. He's not going to get it until 31, 32. I mean, Beast Mode is 31 years old. And he retired from the Seahawks, and when he left, everybody was like, "Well, he's not going to be that good for that much longer." And he's still a solid back.
Yeah.
But is he worth $15 million a year?
No,
At 31, I don't think Bell is even going to be worth 15 at 31. So him getting a 6-year deal, so that's 4, 5, 6-year deal with that much money, I just don't see it happening.
And I mean, there's no reason to feel sorry for Le'Veon Bell. Even if he takes the tag, like I said earlier, he's going to make $14.5 million. So it's not like this guy's falling into the poorhouse by any means. So good stuff, guys. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk some NASCAR. Actually, more like Russell's going to talk some NASCAR. We're going to listen, and then we're going to get into our pick of the week for the upcoming week. It's going to have something to do with the upcoming WWE Fastlane pay-per-view. So we'll be right back with more from the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics.
McNair Auto Sales is the place to buy your pre-owned car, truck, or van. To be the best, it takes big selection, friendly staff, and great pricing. We guarantee a no-hassle buying experience, and financing is available right on site. So come see us today. We're located at 1026 East Broad Avenue in Rockingham. And remember, with over 40 years of experience, you know McNair is the name you can trust.
Family Pharmacy is a local pharmacy that's been in business in Rockingham for over 10 years. Located in the Food Lion Shopping Center on US 1 North, we have easy access into the store and a drive-thru for your convenience as well. You can download the official Family Pharmacy app at myfamilypharmacy.com, and we'll help you set it up to text you when your prescription is ready, and you can even set it up to fill your prescriptions when due. Our motto is we'll treat you like family, and it's something we truly mean. We take the same care in filling your prescription that we would take for our own family. Family Pharmacy. We'll treat you like family.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Now, we had to say goodbye to Bobby, but that's not going to stop the show. Of course, 3 of us still left. And Russell on the right here going to talk some NASCAR. Now, the guys were in Las Vegas this past Sunday. Kevin Harvick was the man. How'd he do it?
Well, a lot of people are saying he's actually cheating doing it. He's got a dent in his in the back glass windshield. People were like speculating, like, is that making the car go faster with the wind? I was like, come on, it's probably nothing. But he just dominated the mess out of that race. Another 1.5 mile track. He was completely owned. And of course, next week we're going to go to ISM Raceway, which is in Phoenix. It used to be called Phoenix International Raceway. They changed it up this year, but which is another track that he owns. So I'm going to make my early prediction that he's going to win that one. But Harvick is just, he's got something this year that nobody else has.
Yeah. So after this race, where are we going next week?
It will be in Phoenix, Avondale, Arizona, that we're to be heading to for ISM Raceway. It's a short track. It's actually a little interesting because it has a really wide open spot in the backstretch called the dog leg, which actually, I believe later this year they're going to move the start-finish line to that spot. So it'll be interesting to see that race later this year, but this will be, I believe, the last race in this configuration. And I do see Harvick tearing up the field in this year as well.
So you got Harvick back-to-back, huh?
Not because of his previous dominance before with Las Vegas and Atlanta, but in years past, it's hard not to go against Harvick when it comes to Phoenix because it's like his playground. He's the bully of the playground there, so, I mean, I can't see anybody else winning there but him.
And I think it's fascinating how different drivers do well on different courses, like between the road courses and the ovals. Why is that? Why is it like that?
Some drivers just got better experience. That you look at somebody like AJ Allmendinger and you might be thinking, who was that? But when you come to a road course like Sonoma or Watkins Glen, he is always there to be a threat to win that race. Jeff Gordon has always been pretty decent at road courses. He's been pretty good at one, but not very good at 1.5 mile tracks. When it comes to short tracks, you might be thinking of Kyle Busch when it comes to those type of races.
Yeah.
But everybody has their own differences in how they set it up. I mean, most drivers have a preference for how their seat sits in the car.
Oh, yeah. It's that specific, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now you mentioned Jeff Gordon, and of course you told me about this. The I think it's the 2019 NASCAR Hall of Fame. Is it 18 or 19?
It'll be 19. They already announced the nominees.
Okay.
I believe about 15 on that list. And Jeff Gordon is his first season being, or his first year being eligible to be on it. And I can't see him not making it on there with how big he is.
Yeah.
It'd be like an Earnhardt or a Petty, which they got in on the very first class in NASCAR Hall of Fame. If you had to ask me who I would pick to go along with Gordon, it would be Ricky Rudd. A lot of people know who he is because he's had a temper in the past, but especially with him and Earnhardt back in '89 at North Wilkesboro Speedway, which is just not too far from here, in fact. But they had like a spin out at the last lap, and they asked Ricky Rudd, what did Earnhardt say to you after the race? And he said, well, we were talking about the weather. They weren't talking about the weather.
Yeah, I bet not. Who else you got getting in?
I'm going with Davey Allison and Alan Kulwicki, who are really great drivers in NASCAR. Alan Kulwicki, I feel like he's already been in the Hall of Fame, hasn't made it in yet. And another one is the car owner, Roger Penske. He is huge, not just in NASCAR, but also in IndyCar. A lot of wins underneath his team. So I see him also getting in as well.
Yeah, I mean, Penske racing is synonymous, it seems like, with NASCAR, and like you said, in Indy. Another owner that's on the list that you didn't mention is Joe Gibbs, who, of course, has Redskin ties in football. Is there a particular reason why he doesn't get in, or just too many people?
Well, the thing about the NASCAR Hall of Fame is that there's not enough spots for everybody I would like to see get in.
Right.
I think he will get into it eventually. Probably not now. Yeah, he's got a couple of championships underneath him, but I don't think he's got enough. I don't really think his stats match up to someone like Penske.
You think he'll eventually get in?
Oh
there?
yeah, certainly.
Another guy I noticed on the list was Bobby Labonte.
I would have loved for Bobby Labonte to get in. If I could have a 6th win, that would definitely be him. I loved him as a kid.
Yeah, and see, I don't follow NASCAR nearly as much as you do, but when I was looking through the list, I was like, I remember Bobby Labonte for sure. So, we'll have to wait and see. Now, do you know when they'll actually vote on this?
I believe they're kind of already voting on it right now.
Okay.
I know they do a fan vote, and then they'll pick a few from select members of the Hall of Fame that will get to choose that as well. But I'll have to see what happens there.
So it's like other sports where those in the Hall of Fame get a vote as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very cool.
And even some of the current drivers, I believe Brad Keselowski got the pick on last year's Hall of Fame.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll have to see what happens Sunday. Of course, you've been pretty good about taking predictions, so we'll have to wait and see if Harvick is victorious for the second week in a row. Now, this is the RO Sports Show. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk some local Raider sports. Just a couple of quick things here. The Lady Raiders soccer team is off to a 3-0 start after they beat rival SAC conference foe Purnell Sweat on Monday 4-1. Like I said, they're 3-0 overall, 1-0 in the conference. They've actually outscored their opponents 10-2 so far. So Benny Howard's last season starting out pretty well, so hopefully they'll have a lot of success moving forward. And then the Richmond Raider baseball team defeated Terry Sanford on Saturday 6-5. That moves them to 2-0 overall. And they actually beat a guy by the name of David John DJ Hurst, who was Terry Sanford's pitcher. This guy's going to Chapel Hill to play for the Tar Heels, so big-time pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
The Raiders were able to come through, get some timely hits, and were able to win that game. And speaking of that game, Russell, you've got our official athletes of the week, right?
Yeah, so male and female athletes of the week were released this week. The male athlete was Garrett Wiggum. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name.
I think it's Wigman.
Wigman.
They call him Wiggy.
Wiggy, yeah. He's a junior on the baseball team. Plays catcher, outfield, and pitcher, so he's all-around guy. Also, our female is Jessie Graham, junior in soccer, who plays forward.
All right, and of course the official Richmond County Athletes of the Week brought to you by McNair Auto Sales. You know, I see big things for the Raider teams this year. And we didn't even mention Raider softball. They haven't played since their first game against Marlboro Academy. Fortunately, they lost that, but Marlboro Academy is one of the best teams in the region. So don't fault them for that. Of course, last time they lost a game, they ended up going on a 14-game winning streak. So maybe that'll happen again for the
And
Lady
golf is
Raiders.
about to start back up, too.
Golf's about to start up. Tennis was actually supposed to start on Tuesday. They got rained out, so I believe they will start on Thursday. So
Okay.
we'll get back to y'all on that. Now, you know, last week we made our prediction between who would win between Duke and Carolina. Were successful on that, picking Duke. This week, with WWE's pay-per-view, SmackDown pay-per-view, I should say, Fastlane coming up on Sunday, I thought we'd go to the professional wrestling world to make our pick for this week. Now, of course, the main event is everybody's fighting for AJ Styles Championship. I initially thought we should try to pick that one, but I kind of thought we might all pick Styles, so I went against it. So instead of that, I want to get you guys' prediction on the United States Championship at Fastlane. Randy Orton versus the current champion, Bobby Roode. Who you got?
I would say Randy Orton.
All right, so you're going to get the upset?
I'm going to go with Bobby Roode on this because I don't see Bobby dropping it anytime soon. He's on a roll right now. He's got a lot of momentum going on with his glorious.
Yeah.
I love doing that. I actually went to an event a few months ago, and being a part of that was a lot of fun. But I see Bobby retaining it.
Yeah. You know, I initially when I put this out, I thought, you know, I could absolutely see Randy Orton beating this guy, which makes it picking it fun. But I'm with you. I think Bobby Roode's gonna retain the belt. He's got one of the best entrances in the game right now.
Yeah.
Him and Shinsuke Nakamura were the best two I've probably ever seen firsthand.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Nakamura, you know, he's slated to fight whoever wins on Sunday's main event. Let me see if I can name everybody. AJ Styles, of course, is the champion. Baron Corbin's been added. John Cena, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and I feel like I'm missing one more. Dolph Ziggler, I believe it is, got thrown in there. Now, on SmackDown on Tuesday, I think I read that Sami kind of turned on Kevin Owens.
Oh, really?
Now, I take that as that's a WrestleMania match getting ready to set up, is the way I see that.
That'll be one of the dream matches, I would say.
Right. Then in addition to that, we've talked about this last week, I see John Cena, I'm sure you guys agree, end up fighting The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Who knows what will happen with Dolph and Baron. Those are kind of mid-tier guys.
Well, I think Dolph will go out there in the United States Championship because the way he left out SmackDown with it after the last pay-per-view for SmackDown, he had won it and just left it in the ring afterwards, and we ain't heard anything on him since the Royal Rumble when he came back.
Yeah.
He still, I guess, will still have a clause in the contract to still have a match for that title.
Yes.
Yeah.
And did he ever really say he was?
Did he vacate it?
That's what I'm saying.
I think he vacated. I think he did.
Yeah, but you know how those contracts are. I mean,
Yes.
there's an official contract, but you know they can always amend that and change it up. Like Brock Lesnar, you know, talked about it last week. This is a guy that's supposed to come out and fight at least every 30 days, and we've gone months without seeing him sometimes. Matter of fact, this past Monday, I'm not sure exactly what happened. Maybe something happened behind the scenes, but he was supposed to come out, I read, and talk smack to Roman Reigns.
Never did.
Paul Heyman came out as his representative, as he's done in the past, But during WrestleMania season, you expect to see Brock on every Monday Night Raw, don't you?
Yeah. Most WWE champions in the past, and now they always came.
Yeah, and when we talked about this last week again, I expect Brock Lesnar to drop it to Roman Reigns and go back to UFC, and maybe he's a little bitter about that. Again, we don't know what happened, contract issues, who knows what it is. But again, WrestleMania season is upon us, so we've got a lot more professional wrestling to get into as we get closer to New Orleans. Now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, one of my favorites, maybe one of your favorites, we're going to do Big Impact of the Week and Love It or Hate It. So we'll be right back with more from the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics.
Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts is all about rustic home decor and gifts. You will always find a variety of unique antiques, vintage, and new items in our shop. Come and see our selection of housewarming, new baby, and wedding gifts. For the man in your life, we have many collectibles, Boker knives, and leather. And ladies love the jewelry, purses, candles, hats, and t-shirts. We also offer a 30-day layaway program. Come and experience shopping at Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts.
With hospice, you guys just outdo yourselves every day. And I really appreciate it. I honest to God don't know what I would do if it weren't for you. The things that you do, I'm in approval of. And thank you. I don't know what else to say other than thank you.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Now, as we've started doing, guys, I want to get into our Big Impact of the Week, brought to you by Richmond Community College, who, of course, his motto is Local College, Big Impact. So we'll start with you, Russell. Who's your Big Impact of the Week?
I've got UNC Pembroke. That's the second week in a row I got them. They actually are now the undisputed Peach Belt Conference champion. They won their championship tournament, and now I believe they're number 3 seed in the Division II of the NCAA March Madness tournament. So congratulations to Pembroke. Go Braves.
And also congratulations to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro Spartans for winning their tournament and making to the big dance. Pretty much for a small school who had done a great thing to make it to the big dance. Kudos to the Spartans. Good luck.
And that's what makes March Madness so great, is smaller schools being able to get involved with that. And my big impact of the week is the linebacker out of the University of Central Florida, Shaquem Griffin, who, if you're not familiar with him, he lost his hand to an amputation when he was only 4 years old. He put up 20 reps of 225 on the bench press during the combine. Actually did that Saturday with a prosthetic on his left arm. He ran a 4.3840, which is the fastest for a linebacker since 2003. So very impressive. Not only forget the prosthetic, but just impressive anyway for a guy to come out and perform like that at the combine. So that's our big impact of the week. I do want to add in here, guys, because I didn't want to end on a sour note, so we'll put this in between. Unfortunately, the longtime broadcaster for UNC football and especially basketball, Woody Durham, unfortunately passed away Wednesday morning at the age of 76. And I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of memories listening to Woody Durham. So, of course, condolences to his family and, of course, the extended Tar Heel family as well. Now, as we move on, we're going to do Love It or Hate It like we do every other week, and we're going to start with something near and dear to your heart, Russell. Quarterback, Nick Saban, the coach for Alabama, is having a dilemma and is kind of hesitant as far as picking a quarterback between Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa. And I always have trouble saying his name. But the hesitation of it, love it or hate it.
I don't think it's really hesitation. I think he's just saying that to the media. But I mean, I would say I love it because it keeps the other teams on their toes. Like who's he going to start? It's going to be Tua. It's going to be. Is it going to be?
Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts. Is it going to be one of them? So I mean, keeping them on their toes. We had this happen a few years ago, right before they were going to play against West Virginia. Who's he going to start? And they don't say until like 5 minutes before the game starts.
Right.
So I think it's a good strategy. So I'm going to say love it.
All right.
I love it because it brings a level of competition. It keeps teams on their heels, whatnot have you. But if we come down to Nick Saban, we know what he can do, regardless of who starts at the quarterback position. You know, in whether it's Hurts or the number 2 quarterback, hey, go Roll Tide, bring another championship back to Alabama.
And one more thing. Everything that Saban does, I trust what he says. So.
Sure. You can't really doubt anything that he does anymore with the experience with that. You know, the only reason we're talking about this is because Tua, of course, came in during the national championship and dominated against Georgia, brought Alabama back from the brink of losing.
2nd and 26.
Yeah, and of course ended up winning the national championship. I'm going to say love it, but let's not forget, guys, in college football is different than the NFL. In the NFL, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. In college, you can get away with that. So I think there's even a chance we could see both of them playing throughout the year, or maybe even in the same game.
Yeah,
So
I know Saban does that a lot with the running backs.
Yeah.
One of them's built for the strength, one built for the speed. So.
Running back by committee type thing.
By the way, not to get off on a tangent here, but something I didn't tell you guys about. During the Combine, Bo Scarborough got interviewed and got voted the craziest question. It was, do you think God is an Auburn fan? And Bo, of course, said he's definitely not an Auburn fan. So just wanted to throw that out there. Now, moving on. Tiger Woods is slated to play at the Valspar Championship and the Arnold Palmer Invitational. This will make 4 events in 5 weeks heading up to the Masters. He's going to be making his debut at Valspar. Of course, Bay Hill, where the AP Invitational is, Tiger's won 8 times. So, gearing up for the Masters. Is Tiger playing too much? Love it or hate it?
I love it. I think building up, getting ready to go for the Masters, I think you want to get as much practice in as possible. I don't think he's going to use all of his strength through all of these tournaments. I think he's going to pick up on some things, learn a few things, and make sure he got in the swing of things before he gets to the Masters. So I love it.
I love it too. He builds momentum to get ready for the Masters. You know he can do. He has dominated in the past. I love to see, just because he just Tiger, we love to see the competition that he has in him, and we'll hope and good luck to him, and hope he wins everything he does.
Well, just to disagree with you guys, I'm going to say hate it, and here's why. It's great for Tiger to be out there. It's good for the sport, obviously. But Tiger's getting up there in age.
Yes.
Of course, you can play golf a lot longer than other sports, but he's had a lot of injuries over the last few years.
Yes.
Tiger, at this point in his career, is all about the majors.
Yes.
The Masters, the U.S. Open, the British Open, and the PGA Championship. Yes, he's doing these to kind of gear up. He could do that anywhere if he wanted to. I worry that he might get out there and re-injure his back. He's had back injuries in the past. He's had a lot of injuries, so that might be the thing that I worry about, and he's not able to be 100% when they get to Augusta. Now, the NCAA Football Rules Committee has come out this week and said that they are proposing kickoff rule changes. And then basically what it would do is return teams would be allowed to fair catch the kick inside the 25-yard line and in a result be able to have a touchback, which would again move it to the 25. So for instance, if you catch it on the 5 and you fair catch it, you automatically go to the 25-yard line. Now they're doing it for player safety. And it also says that a lot of teams, of course, have been trying to pin the return teams inside the goal line or close to the goal line. But this rule change, love it or hate it?
I absolutely hate it. I mean, where's the fun in the kickoffs now? I mean, okay, we're on the 5-yard line. We'll just go ahead and take a knee or whatever. You got touchback in the end zone for a reason there, but bringing it out to the next 25-yard line, I don't like that at all. I think they should just keep it the way it is. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I hate it because, my football IQ is like, even if you on the kickoff return, if you nail it down at the goal line, that's automatically 20 yards.
Yeah.
Why you want to put an extra 5 yards up for? To me, I think the NCAA player safety. I don't see the safety in that because we're already dealing with enough anyway from not only from the from the Pee Wee football all the way to the professional league. I kind of, I don't see anything. That's something like that's going to be shot down coming next meeting or so.
And it very well could. And I'm with you guys. I absolutely hate this. I
Yes.
think it's just flat out stupid.
Yes.
I get it for player safety aspect
Yes.
of it. But isn't the point of the kickoff team is to try to pin them as close to the goal line as you can? I mean,
Yes.
if I'm the kicking team, that's my goal, is to get them as close to their own goal
Yeah,
line
that way
as
you can get a
possible.
safety or whatever.
Exactly. And if they do this, I think it's going to take a little bit of fun out of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
especially on the opening kickoff, and you're like anticipating they're going to run it back or going to do it.
Yeah.
They might be a little disappointed when they in the end zone, but if you're going to kick it and it goes to the 15, okay, we'll take a fair catch. Like, where's the fun in that?
Yeah, sometimes they're just doing too much.
Yeah.
You're taking the fun out of it, and a lot of times you don't need to change things just to change them.
No.
So I think we can agree on that. Now, here's something a little funny. The Florida House has passed a bill that will allow the University of Central Florida to have undefeated champions license plates. Love it or hate it.
I LOL that. That is just so ridiculous. Like, I get their frustration of not being in the playoffs, but at one point, if you didn't make it, you didn't get in there to prove it, so you can't really say it. And I know they got a great argument for getting in, but not to claim that they're the champions. It just makes no sense. I don't know whose idea it was to pass it. I don't know who agreed to pass this, but they probably shouldn't be in that position.
And apparently it passed 33-2 vote-wise, so a lot of people were on board. But Jeremy, love it or hate it?
He's got a funny. I'm gonna go love it because my thing is, if you didn't get to Central Florida, if you didn't get to a bowl game or win the conference or nothing, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, I love it just because it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, they were undefeated. Yeah, they don't get, football is completely different than basketball where smaller schools get a chance to win a championship. I would even say that maybe UCF should have been in the discussion to be in the top 4 last year. You could make a case for that. But if they want to do something like this, who cares? I know there's some people that it'll irk, but
They had a parade too, I believe. And
oh,
I
they're
guess
firmly
they-
believe that they're national champions because they're the only team that went undefeated. But again, if you want to do that, those guys down there want to do it.
Hey,
Maybe it's good for the culture.
I mean, hey, if y'all want to meet Alabama next year, go right ahead. Go ahead and defeat it again.
Well, I mean, see, that's the other side of the coin is what would happen if they actually played the 4 teams that actually made the playoffs. But again, I mean, they won. I can't remember who they played in one of the big bowl
Auburn.
games.
They beat Auburn.
Beat Auburn.
Who
so,
beat Alabama and Georgia, who were in the finals of the playoffs.
which is why we're even talking about this as them thinking they're national champions. And finally, to wrap up, love it or hate it, Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr came out this week and gave an opinion on what he thinks should happen to NCAA players. He thinks those players that come out and are not drafted should be able to go back to school. Love it or hate it.
I love it. I don't see why there should be a restriction from not being able to go back. Whether they want to go back for academic purposes or athletic purposes, they should be able to have that choice. And also, I think it should be up to the university.
Okay.
I agree with Russell the same way because, hey, if you want to go back to school to further your education, that's your choice, even for academics. And then at the same time, that should be on the individual's mindset as well.
And I love this idea too, so I'm going to say love it. And I mean, I'm kind of surprised this hasn't been brought up before now, or at least proposed. If a guy thinks that he's good enough to get drafted when he's actually not, once he goes in there, he's already hired an agent. He can't go back to school. What does this guy do with his life now? He's going to be selling insurance somewhere, or whatever.
Or
it may
selling
be.
cars or something like that.
Yeah. If he has the opportunity to go back, get his degree, or play basketball another year and get some more experience and work on what he's not that good at, he might get drafted the next year. So absolutely love this one.
And even with and I was reading reports on yesterday and today that the NBA commissioner Adam Silver is proposing where all these players doing these one and done seasons go to the NBA. He finna trying to cut it out because I believe if you're a freshman, dominated the whole year, bring that same experience, bring that same dominance in your sophomore and your sophomore, junior, and senior year. And I would go for it because go get your degree.
Now, in my opinion, I don't agree with leaving college after 1 year thinking that you're going to be the top dog of
NBA.
basketball or football, whichever sport it is. I think you should go ahead, even guys who go for 3 years and then go ahead and leave, not finish that 4th year. I think it's a big mistake on them. However, it should be up to them, not everybody else.
Not to.
The way I look at it is, I think you should either be able to come out of high school like you used to, or stay 2 years.
Yes.
I think that way the ones that would be one and done can go ahead and go to the NBA if they want to, if they
Yes.
think they're good enough. And of course, the process will weed them out if they're not.
Yes.
Or stay at least 2 years. You have to stay at least 2 years, and I think that makes college basketball better.
Yes.
Because as I wrote in my column this week, Grayson Allen, Joel Berry, and Theo Pinson are 3 seniors between Carolina and Duke that stayed 4 years, and you just don't see that anymore
No.
in college basketball because these guys are
Yeah,
all one and
because I
done.
know most of these teams like Kentucky and Duke who are real known for doing what they do.
Yeah.
Because like the last person I know pretty much in Duke who had a one and done season and done well is Kyrie Irving from the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
And then my man played for the 76ers.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those things we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully this is something that will be put forth to, I guess, Adam Silver or,
Yes.
or whoever makes these
Yeah, it
decisions
is.
to be a mixture of the NCAA and the NBA.
Yes.
But that's going to do it for this edition of the RO Sports Show, of course, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. We'll be right back here next Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Of course, you can watch us on the Richmond Observer app, the Richmond Observer Facebook page, the Richmond Observer YouTube page. You can listen to us on Classic Rock, so a ton of ways to watch and listen, and it's all for free. So for Russell Parker, Jeremy McKenzie, I'm Matt Harrelson. Have a great night and join us again next week.